Then Monday we go weiter, right? Monday, okay. What? Tomorrow is already time to Esther, you know. No problem. Rabbi Chody just said he's going to be here tomorrow, and if okay, let's make a sikkum. The Ramban is explicit that there's a heter of tiltal gufay, tiltal begufay. Moving muksa with your body, not with your hands, moving muksa with your feet, moving muksa with your back, with your head. The Ramban is the first, there's a heter of tiltal begufay, because we're not geyser, tiltal bekai gavna. The Rosh, of course, is explicit. Everything started from the Rosh, and the Rosh says that there's a heter to move muksa with your body parts. Okay? Maisa yesterday I mentioned from the Orcha Shabbos, seems to be his Iker Nakuda was how could the Gemara not mention a foot? That's how he says it there. How could the Gemara not mention the eitzah of kicking with a foot if there would be an eitzah of kicking with a foot? So then how could it be that the Chazal didn't mention such an eitzah? Again, like I said yesterday, this is against all the Paiskim. And their example of Tilta Begufa is a foot. And why Chazal didn't say? So Chazal did say. So Mamela, it's not a kasha. The Torah, the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah. The Torah, the Shulchan Aruch, the first say that you can move things with your body. The Ramah, how do I know the Ramah holds like that? It says, Goyim Rabbi Kiva Eger. He says, look, the Ramah is brought down in Shin Yud Aleph. The Ramah Shvaik, the Ramah doesn't say a word in Shin Yud Aleph Sif Ches. He doesn't say, I disagree. There's no heter of tiltal begufa. The Ramah knows how to speak. And the Ramah doesn't say anything. That's what Rabbi Kiva Eger says. The truth is that there might be even a better raya. I don't know, a better raya I'm saying, but there might be a more raya. It says in the Ramah when it talks about blowing muksa. So I think it's also, I'm afraid to ask it, but there's a raya that the Ramah holds that you're allowed to move things with your body, because Ramah in Sif Gimel, so Ramah says, Mutter l'taltel davar mixel yedei nipuach. The Ramah in Shin Chassid Gimel, you're allowed to move muksa by blowing muksa. Says Ramah, the loy have a tiltel ela kila achar yad. The loy mikri tiltel. It's not called tiltel ela, it's kila achar yad, and therefore it's not called tiltel. It sounds like from the Ramah that it's mefurish. Why did Rabbi Kiva Eger have to say, well, no, but he says, why is blowing mutter? Because it's tiltal kalachar yad, which is not tiltal. That's what we're talking about, tiltal kalachar yad. What? Oh, helamai. So that we saw yesterday, that they asked this question to Rav Chaim Kanievsky, and this is Mistam of the Pshat Rabbi Kiva Eger also, I guess, right? They asked the question to Rav Chaim Kanievsky. The Chazon Ish argues on the Ramah. I mean, I don't know what the kash is. The Chazon Ish argues on the Shulchan Aruch, he argues on the Torah, he argues on the Derech Chaim, he argues on the Mishabura, he argues on all the Paiskim. So why is it worse that he should argue on the Ramah? Okay, I don't know. Al Kapanim, they asked, does he argue on the Ramah? And the Ramah says you're allowed to blow muksa. So Rav Chaim Kanievsky said, no, that far, that's so klachayad, that's so mud, that's so mufka, that's so not a tiltal that even the Ramah will agree. Excuse me, even the Chazon Ish will agree. But the whole Makor is from Kalachar Yad. I mean, the Maril, so I guess that'll be the answer. He's going to learn that when they say Kalachar Yad, he means like it's such a mufkadik way of tiltal. That's how you have to read the Ramah. It's such a mufkadik way of tiltal that even if normally you hold that Kalachar Yad doesn't work, it's not. But Kalachar Yad, this is mamish, even though, it means that the nimshal is not a good right? Kalachar Yad will be, but the truth is that's fake news, because Kalachar Yad, we're going to see in a minute, the Shibra Shita anyways, is that Kalachar Yad is not tiltal begufa, it's tiltal natzad. So don't get excited from diukim like that. The classic case of Chazal of Psik Reisha, right? The classic case, it doesn't make sense, right? When the Gemara talks about they were cutting off the chicken's head. Why were they cutting off the chicken's head? Because the kid needed a very normal thing. He needed to play with the head. That's what they used to play with. The beak is nice and bishmat and everything. Right? So that's the example that the Gemara says Psik Reisha. He cut off the head for the yamas and he's not going to die. And that's the example of Psik Reisha. Right? I mean, that's an example. That's a ma'aseh b'kavana. He's cutting off the head. That's what he's doing. He's cutting off the head. Right? Okay. So not always is the nimshal so perfect. But upon the Ramban, the Rosh, the Torah, the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, the Rabbi Kiva Eger, the Graz, the Derech Chaim, the Mishabura, and in the end of the Sefer Shmir Shabbos, I don't have one over here, but in the end of the Sefer, Shmir Shabbos, he has a letter from Rosh Zalman. Just to show you how important this is. That means that the entire Sefer, Shlomo Zalman said he spent 7 years going over the Sefer Shmir Shabbos. People always ask me, what should they learn? They want to know Hilchos Shabbos, and they can't listen to how many Shiur Man Kiddush? 90 Shiur Man Kiddush. What is it? 93 Shiur or something? 96 Shiur Man Kiddush. He said, how can I listen to 96 Shiur Man Kiddush? Do you have something else? I told him, look, if you're going to learn Hilchos Shabbos, just take a Shmir Shabbos. 80%, everybody, 80% he's for sure right. The other 10% he's for sure wrong. And the other 10% you're going to say differently than him or whatever. Okay, so you're doing okay. If you get an 80, 90, 100 on the test, it's nicht gefährlich, you know. So you stick with the Shmir Shabbos. So there's some Zaman. And how do I know you can stick with the Shmir Shabbos? Okay, a lot of times I disagree with the Shmir Shabbos, but it doesn't matter. If you learn Shmir Shabbos, you'll know Halachos Shabbos Gan's fine, right? And who says that you're going to know Shmir Shabbos Gan's fine? Rosh Zalman, he spent 7 years going through the Sefer. It means he learned Masechta Shabbos over the course of 7 years, a 700th time. And he used the Shmir Shabbos always as his last stop on the train to check, if he agreed with the Psakim there. So, that Rosh Zalman, when he had a Shiloh on Shabbos, he would open up the and what's the last page of the Shmir Shabbos Kallus? Even in the new volumes, they didn't. In the new volume, they incorporated all the third volume, but this they left at the last page. I find this intriguing. The last page in the Sefer Shmir Shabbos Kallus, a letter from a Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. It's a letter. What's it a letter about? It's a letter about Tiltel Begufay. So I got into the letter. The truth is, go and read the letter. Now you're experienced and educated to be able to read that letter and to understand it. He goes through this sugya. It's a very long letter. It's like an entire page and a half with very small print, but you'll have a lot of what we spoke about is in there. Like I said, a little bit different, a little bit the same. It's all in there, In that letter, the Shmir Shabbos, the Shlomo Zalman wrote a letter, and he says, "What's the din of Tiltel Begufay?" He goes through this sugya, and you see the little shyness, the little shyness that Shlomo Zalman says are. This is the consensus of the Achrayim, the psak of all the Achrayim. He says that lashon, that Tiltel Begufay is mutter. Tiltel Begufay is mutter. Moving muktzah with your foot, with your back, with your ear, with your head, with your toes, whatever, is muktzah. But the words of Shlomo Zalman, psak shel kol Achrayim. Look over there, find it. It's in a very long letter. Ayin Sham, he says that lashon. So that's it. Once you see that, the Shevet Levi says, in many places, the poskim go la'alacha, that you're allowed to move muktzah with your body. Mishnah Berurah and Sivkot and Yud was one example that we saw yesterday. There's a few Mishnah Berurahs. I must tell you, there are some difficult Mishnah Berurahs, there's no question. But before I tell you the Mishnah Berurahs, some of the Mishnah Berurahs I'm going to ask questions on. You should know, every Mishnah Berurah I'm going to ask a question on, someone asked a question before the Mishnah Berurah. In other words, the Mishnah Berurah in every place that I'm going to mention is quoting out of a Magen Avram, a Ramah, this, that. And someone asked, on that sefer, I'll give you an example. The Mishnah Berurah is about to say that when you have a rock, you're not allowed to push the rock with your foot or whatever the case is, right? So the Takasha, the Mishnah Berurah, I thought you hold that you're allowed to move muktzah with your foot, right? So you should know whatever question we're going to ask, I found in previous poskim, that question the Magen Avram asks on the Ramah, it's out there. You're going to have to answer. There are answers. We know the Ramah had an answer. We know the Achrayim had an answer. But there's no shaila. The psak of the poskim is Tiltel Begufay is mutter, which just compounds the pella we saw yesterday. A certain sefer that says that Tiltel Begufay is b'shas atchak and sarachin if you can be mekel. Divided the psak of all the poskim. That's the halacha. That's the halacha. Mishnah Berurah is Sivkot and Lamed. I'll give you a few examples. Mishnah Berurah Siman Shin Ches Sivkot and Lamed. Mishnah Berurah says over here he has some piece of cheres on the floor and it's not so dangerous. So he says, if it's dangerous, it's muktzah, b'makom hezek, you're allowed to do either tiltum and tzad, or sometimes even move the muktzah. Here he says it's not so dangerous. He says, v'dafka, if you want to be mefana, be a dayim, it's aser. Aval, mutter l'tchaysan b'raglav, but you're allowed to kick it with your foot. Meaning, even though you're not allowed to move it, it's not so dangerous, but you're allowed to move it with your foot, because tiltal, muktzah, begufay, mutter, kittel kaman, it's a version, shulchan aruch, shin yud aleph, sif ches. So this is l'chayra. This is beyond the shadow of a doubt. There are Mishnah Berurahs that make life difficult. I'll tell you them. And the big Talmidei Chacham amongst us, you could have answers. You could have the whole Purim to get good terutzim. And Sivkot and Pei Beis, very difficult Mishnah Berurah. Avalei shev aleim, to sit on muktzah when you're not mazes the muktzah, is vaday mutter. Is vaday mutter. And afilu if you're mazes, he's talking about sitting on like a stone or a rock or something. It's muktzah. He says, to sit on a stone is mutter because you're not moving it. And afilu k'shemezes al yidei yeshivasai. And even if what? Even if it moves, because you're sitting on it, even if it moves, you should know mitzaded the Magen Avram. That means he's knighted to that side. Lahako. Why? Because tiltum and side who calls man she'ein amezes b'yadayim. Because it's a tiltum and side. Now you know the rule. Tiltum and side is mutter. Right? No matter what, even like we saw yesterday, even if you hold like the Ran, even if tiltum begufa at least is tiltum and tzad, and it's mutter at least it's tzarech gufa. Then he says, he's also masking makasav The Mokim Shein Sarich right Lifresh Miza. Stay away from moving around, even that. Staying this idea that we spoke about yesterday. So what's this all about? Why is the Mishnah Berurah being so nervous? Why is he so nervous? Why can't I sit on Muksa and let it move? What's the problem? What's the... Sorry? It's true. Ramosha is not such a riot, though. We'll see in a minute. Ramosha, we'll see in a minute. Mishnah Berurah didn't say like that. Ramosha goes that you have to be Mesiaches to the Ran, but it's true. You're right. If I was only bothered by the fact that, it's why should you do the muktzah for no reason? That line in the mirror doesn't bother me so much. You see this ruach in the paiskim, stay away from muktzah if you don't have to. There's no mitzvah this Shabbos to show everybody you kicking muktzah with your foot. Look, I know what I can do, right? Or blowing muktzah around. Why do that? The Aruch HaShulchan says it's not a normal thing to do. Why would you be a weird person? No, but wait a second, let me just tell you what I'm bothered by. So I'm bothered by is that he makes it much more. It's like, how could you sit on the muktzah? And if you do, so then it shouldn't move. And if you do move it, we have the heter of tiltum and atzad. Just say it's more. You're moving muktzah. And then with your body, you're allowed to move muktzah with your body. So Rabbi Spira says, maybe it's different because when you're sitting on muktzah, maybe it's like a chair, and that's a normal way of usage of muktzah, and therefore that's no longer kigufay, big gufay. Excuse me. Maybe that's like a tiltul kedarkai. Okay, and just maybe, listen, maybe you have to have a lot of emunah for this, and maybe that will answer up all the questions. Maybe, I don't know. Mishnah Berurah and Peiches, Mishnah Berurah says, Pirush Magen Avraham, the Hainu l'taltel b'Shabbos leishiv, aval yeshiva l'chud shari b'kol inyan. Yeshiva is always mutter, right? To sit on the stone is always mutter. Over here, he doesn't differentiate. Okay. So, no. Okay. What? Sorry? Halachos Tezayin, let's see. The halacha, where is she? Gam? No. The asal tatel enicha? Umemela, the mutter az l'samcha al safla acher. No, not down. Where is it? Where? Of a leishiv alav. No, but that's not right. He may be just sitting on the muktzah. Nah, that's not right at all. Why not? He means when he's all right. No, he means when you're coming to sit, just be careful not to move it. No. I don't think it means that when you're sitting, be careful not to move it while you sit. But if it does mean that, then we'll say it's kedarkai and we don't have the heter kedarkai. Then nishkeferlich. What? Yeah, there's a difference. Shintes, Yudalid. Excuse me. Shintes Yudalid. What does this say, Rabbi Isai? I wrote these down, so let's just check them up. I didn't. Here. What do we have here? Myri, the king, the car. If you're not doing, Avalim ain't it sarklim klal rakhaishish nears aser. So what do I want here? Yudalid shartzian yitches. Let's see. What do I want here? V'mata chabes v'hakar bigufay v'loy b'yadai. If you move the thing with your body and not with your hands, mutter afilu b'ayfin zeh. Listen to the Mishnah Berurah. Yudches pashit. What's pashit? That's his pashit. This is the biggest fight in the world. Where do I know this from? Mavoyer shin yud aleph sivches begut gufay afilu tzarech davar aser mutter. I mean, that Mishnah Berurah is very aggressive, right? How does the Mishnah Berurah know that you're allowed to move muktzah with your body? Because it's pashit. How do I know it's pashit? It's a mefersha, how would we say, like Einstein, right? It's a mefersha shulchan aruch, shin yud aleph sivches. Like, who doesn't know that? The Mishnah Berurah is not giving much respect to the other side. He's not really giving much respect here. In Shartzian, in Shin Beis Sivkat Lamed Hey. Do I have one here? Shin Beis Lamed Hey. This is my list. I mean, it could be that there are other places, but this is the list that I came up with. Shartzian Shin Beis Lamed Hey is talking over here about that rock I was talking to you about. They used to have in front of the shul to wipe your feet off with the schmutz and the mud, and all the New York's finest and whatever. So Shartzian says, Pashit hu b'koira. They used to have like some type of a beam in front of the shul, and they would scrape off their shoes. So he says, Achdavka imi evin gedoyla. It's only if it's a big rock, shaloi yisnadneit al yedei kinuchai. That you have this huge rock in front of the shul. I mean, I guess he should read the Mishnah Berurah, but he says upstairs in the Mishnah Berurah, he says, where is she? Here. Here. He says, you're allowed to wipe your foot on a stone in front of the shul to take off the shmut. Says the Mishabur, but it's got to be a big rock, because if it's a small rock, it's going to move when you do that. Okay, so what are you going to say now, Dovi? You're going to say that's also because that was the norm? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe say something else here. Does anybody want to say something else here? Chaim Kanievsky said something else. They asked for Chaim Kanievsky, what? Well, if they were misyached, then it wouldn't be muktzah at all. So they asked for Chaim Kanievsky this shaila in the Aliba, the Hilchasa. Excuse me. In the 54th volume, in page 6. And he says, maybe the Mishabur, they ask her, the Mishabur's sheet is that you're allowed to move muktzah with your foot. What's going on over here, right? You're allowed to move muktzah with your foot. Who cares that it's moving, right? And Rabbi's like, look, this is 10 times worse. It's a called tiltum and atzad. It's at least tiltum, it's a tzarech davar mutter. So no matter what, this makes no sense. This doesn't make sense according to the Ran. This doesn't make sense according to anybody, right? Bishlama, tiltul of a davar muktzah. Let's say Isser or something, you could say, I don't know, the Mishabur is chayshish for the Ran, even though he held Pashit not like that, right? But the Akapanim, but over here, you can't budge. Over here, he's doing something mutter. There's nobody in the world that asks such a thing, right? So they asked Chaim. So Chaim said, it's not talking at all about that. He said, if it's misnadnin, it's going to near a ketoilish. It's like a whole new Isser, like if there's a rock in the dirt floor and the rocks, if it's going to move, it's going to look like you're being toilish the rock, which looks like toilish. Okay, so some scientific example, If that, obviously there's no kasha. Maybe that'll answer our pay base. I don't know. maybe not. You get my point, Rabbi Isai. I'm not so concerned. It's Borer and Mishnah Berurah what the psak is. You have kashas as mishtart from a kasha. You don't die when you have a kasha. You can start from a bad teretz, right? But not from a bad kasha. Okay, from a good kasha. Okay. In Reish Samavav, what? Sif Memvav. Oh, Sif Memvav is the raya. We'll see in a moment. That's a raya to the concept that they're talking about.
According to all this, the broken carrot that we spoke about,
yeah. You kick it, yeah. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of you. Take out the cake first. He's saying, you never saw it's good. So Reish Samavav in the last. The Reish Samavav was that whole simon about when a person has money in a pouch and this and that, right? So the Mishabur at the end, the last fear halacha, he says pen yakdimena acher. Over there was talking about that you found on the floor money. Chaval, it's a shut to lose the geld, right? You found on the floor, 30 rubles, right? And the ruble was very high. And you find it on the floor. So what are you supposed to do over here? Talks about a guy and this and that and whatever. So matzah arniki b'Shabbos, you can't pick it up. Even though pen yakdimenu acher, someone's going to get it. Last beer loch in the simon. Pen yakdimenu acher, al yedei tiltel berego, yesh lahakal. You can kick it, right? He means obviously not an Erev Shaili. He's talking beside muktzah. So you can kick it, okay? So maybe it's only l'tzarech aveda. Okay, no. So what's lemaisa? Is there any makom to be machmir? You have all these Mishnah Berurahs that are basically mekel, and we have a few kashas. But so I told you, look, yesterday we saw the Ran. There's no makor. The Ran holds there's no makor for this chiddush. The Ran was of the greatest of the of our Rishonim Paiskim. There's no makor for the chiddush, but don't forget, even according to the Ran, you'll always be able to move tiltul begufay l'tzarech davar mutter. Even if you can't move it l'tzarech davar aser, it's not worse than tiltul min atzad. He just made your body into a tiltul min atzad. It's like an agav to tiltul. And according to Taisus, the Rashba, the Ritva, there's no makor to the chedushim of the Ramban and the Rosh. You have to know that there are many Rishonim that don't have a makor, and the Chazon Ish is machmer, and the Chazon Ish is very big, and the Chai Yodam brings down 2 shitas, and Reb Moshe over here in Chav Beis here we have Reb Moshe. Oh, thank you, Rabbi Cooper, I guess. The Moshe Taka, he says, l'chayra, chabei sivav, im tiltul begufa is mutter dafka l'tzarech davar mutter. Is tiltul begufa only mutter l'tzarech davar mutter? Shaila, eichi yesh linoy gabe tiltul davar ha'isser al yidei tiltul begufa. How should I be noyeg? He asked him on this shaila. He says, im mutter dafka l'tzarech mutter or fi l'tzarech davar aser? Shuva. What's the answer? Aser l'taltul begufa l'tzarech moksa. It's aser. It's mutter. But if you need to, it's a big necessity, then it's mutter. It's aser, right? Don't do it. That's what Moshe is saying. Don't do it. If you really need to do it, you can do it. Right? What? No, he doesn't bring Reb Moshe in the Sefer Kimat. That's not where he got it from. But no. He says the reason he says that is he says because he didn't find anywhere in Shas That's what he writes there, that they bring this heter, right? Ramosha is being machmir because Ran is machmir, the Chayyada brings 2 days, the Aruch HaShulchan brings 2 days. So if somebody wants to know, is this a normal thing to be kicking muktzah? It's not. It's not. And in my house, I use it sparingly when I need to. I'll kick the muktzah, right? It's also not a great thing to be mechanech kids the whole time kicking muktzah. Okay. A kid could see you. You're allowed to teach them the right thing. If there's money on the floor, you don't want it to get lost. You kick the muktzah, right? So then fine, you can teach that, and that's what you should be knowing. But to stam kick muktzah, it's not, not the derech. Is it mutter? It's mutter. Sakalach is it's mutter, right? But that's a chayr. Now, what if it's derech, like the Olam is asking over here? You have to remember another thing. According to the Chazon Ish, there's another heter which you mustn't forget. That means everyone will agree. Like I said, if it's tiltal l'tzarech davar mutter, that's very important to remember always. If you're ever going to move, that you don't have to do sparingly. If you ever want to move something with your elbow l'tzarech davar mutter, then do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Even the Chazon Ish should agree with that. There's another heter that the Chazon Ish agrees with, is this like derech shchiva type of concept, right? Whenever you're doing something which is not misiaches so much to the muksa, it's misiaches to my lying down, it's misiaches this, it comes out very funny. It comes out the Chazon Ish, in the case where we had a kasha on the Mishnah Berurah, he would agree. He would say the opposite of the Mishnah Berurah. He would say, are you allowed to sit on a rock if it's going to move? For sure. According to the Chazon Ish, of course, that's a derech shchiva, it's a derech sitting, it doesn't misiaches to the movement, comes out very ironic. So no matter what, that Mishnah Berurah is a pella, right? And the Mishnah Berurah is telling us to be careful not to move the stone, which doesn't mamish shtim with anything. It's still to minat sad, the worst case scenario, it's still to the gufa, the Chazon Ish will agree. So no matter what, the kasha, the Mishnah Berurah is tzarachin gadol. So whatever you're going to say, so maybe you'll say, like Dovi, that it's a kedarkai. So what's the din of kedarkai? Is there taka no heter of kedarkai? So that, like Rabbi Lieberman pointed out, the first place you have to go on this shaila, Sif Mem Vav. That's in the first Sif that we learned many Shemitah cycles ago. It's Aser Laseis Tachas Atzila Yadav. You can't put under your underarm pit a Zeratoy Loyim, this silkworm that makes silk, because it's Aser Betiltal. It's Aser Betiltal. Why is it Aser Betiltal? Look, this is the most tiltal begufa that you can think of, right? This is not so normal, right? This is tiltal begufa. Oh, so we saw there that they say, that if you want to carry a microphone under your arm, okay, right? Say that. But if you want to carry under your arm, hey, like you ever see the chaver, they play ball, so they have like that big ball, like a big, huge, like baseball. They carry it like this under their arm, like like at the basketball court, you know what I mean? And they have like the ball like this. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, I said baseball. Sorry. You know what I'm talking about? No, because the English guys, it's going to be hard, this one. They have like the what? A football, and they carry like this under their arm like that, right? No, you have what I'm saying? That's normal. That's a very normal way of carrying. All the people that play the ball, that's how they carry it, right? No, that's what I think, right? What's the makor to them? To carrying things under your arm? So you see, over here, you see over here that these guys were carrying silkworms under that was normal. Yeah. So it was normal because they grew there. It was normal because they grew there. That was normal. Right? It's very normal. So another Mishnah Berurah that you see this idea, Siman Shin Ches, Sivkatin Samech Beis. Shin Ches, Sivkatin Samech Beis. What happened over here? Oh, your whole story, this poor guy. His shoe broke. Fregnesh, the poor guy. One buckle broke, and it broke, and he did a good job. He broke it in a way where the shoe was mamish muksa. He broke it in a way where it's unfixable. We spoke about this, right? So here's the poor guy, and it's asul ta'atalai. You can't carry this thing. You can't carry. Why? Muksa. Because now it's a totally unusable shoe. We spoke about this, right? It's a totally unusable shoe. Muksa. Ella, leave it there. So he says, if him, Rabim Sham, let's say it's embarrassing for him to walk around barefoot. It's pretty good for Ugnai loy. Shari mishum kavod abrius. So then he's allowed to wear it mishum kavod abrius. What's the kasha? Where does he wear his shoe? Rabbi say you wear shoes on your feet. Feet is no problem with muksa. So what do you see from this Mishnah Berurah? Why did Mishnah Berurah say the reason why it's mutter is because kavod abrius? Say it's mutter because it's still to the gufa. So vice versa, you see darkai. You see when things are being done in the normal derech, right? It's a shtickle chiddush, klape, what we spoke about. Here he's mamish wearing it, You don't transport from place to place, but here he's wearing it mamish, and that's what he's trying to do. So yes, does anybody think of a case which is kedarka that would be aser? Lefidus, what do you think? What do you say? Lamaisa, the Rosh Hashanah Zalman in that letter in the back of Shmir Shabbos is mefurish that if it's not a shinoi, there's no heter. And there's a raya from Shulchan Aruch, Shin Ches, Sif Mem Vav. That's l'chayra. That's l'chayra. Okay, that's l'chayra. Okay, fine. The only question I have is like this: what if you have a bug? You have a bug. What's that? Not sure if you're right. I don't know. I don't even know if you're right. Something broke in my house the other day. I put on gloves and I picked it up. Because for carrot, I don't want to kick it. I don't know if I agree with you. What? You can't start doing that. You don't mechalik because the street and this and that. I don't know. I'm not convinced. What? But because it's dangerous or whatever. What case are you talking about? Or the Cheres case. Okay, right. So what's case? I don't know. Because I'm fasting tomorrow. I don't know. I can find him. What's he called? Here, you want to read the Sefer Matech? Don't cause trouble. Like this. The shayla is like this. The shayla is, but let's say I have a bug on me. Now I had this shayla last Shabbos. There's a bug on somebody. He was talking to me in the shul. Right? The fellow was talking to me, he's asking me a question. All of a sudden, I'm seeing this like alligator crawling up, you know? I mean, you ever see the matzah, right? And the guy's asking you a shayla, and you're looking, and you see like, you know, horns and beak and everything, right? So I just, you know, right? Boom, he's in Mexico by now, right? And that's what I was thinking afterward. Did I do the right thing? What's a normal thing to do when you see a little alligator on you, a little bug? What? Never blow it off. You guys don't blow it off?
Let's say blow it.
What?
Let's say blow
Yeah, just say thank you. Thank you. You might say Shalchman, it's just that. Leave me alone. What? No one here blows it off?
Your friend doesn't go off.
Huh? I don't know. I thought it was a normal thing what I did.
It's on somebody else.
One day, there's nobody here that would blow it off. If you see a bug, you wouldn't blow it off. Women blow it off? Okay, so let's talk to the feminine side of us over here, right? So I was thinking, why am I allowed to do that? If we're seeing over here that Kedarka is not allowed, and the whole heter of Neficha is Kalachar Yad, but Kalachar Yad, which is in the Kalachar Yad, you all agree it's a little bit normal. You can't say maybe, I don't know, but it's definitely a little bit normal. So why should that be allowed? Right? Maybe it shouldn't be allowed. No? What? That what? Oh, so Rabbi Spire says, look, it's the same thing we keep on having to deal with. For whatever reason, the Chazon Ish agrees to blowing. If you understand that, then you can understand that it doesn't make a difference if something is normal, not more. No, the only problem I have with this is that the Aruch HaShulchan, in his examples of things that like, why move muktzah for no reason? One of his examples, don't blow muktzah if you don't have to. I just wonder if that's like extreme, let's see what we're saying now. And that's once you see that blowing is a whole different level. It's a whole different category, you know? Sorry? Come again? Dust, yeah, dust for sure. This dust is normal to blow off, especially on Shabbos. I can't hear you, sorry? No, but there I was first coming to blow it off. You can't say Sam B'Siachis, that's what I'm coming to do. Chazon Ish can't say that, right? You want to say it's batal? Yeah, but it's a barrier, it's a live thing. You can't say she's batal. What? Yeah, that could be true anyways, Rabbi. Rabbi Maman says, must never forget, I described this scary looking creature. It was like an Oroiv and Keenim over here. So it might be a Grav Shalvei anyways, right? Okay. Look, we're all equal now. That's why we're enjoying this cheer. I don't have a Borodika thing on this, which I tell you. What? That Aliv Delcha says in the 57th volume, in the 174th page, excuse me? Grav Shalvei would work even on a live like alligator, hippopotamus, things like that. You have to be careful with Seder. That's why also, anyways, you have to be careful also with Seder and things like that. Now, this is it, the grand finale. What is examples of tilta v'gufay? Okay, so shoulder is a Rashi. Rashi is in Kuf Mem Aleph. When Rashi talks about being mananeh the kash, Rashi talks about with the shoulder, right? Rashi talks about that you're being mananeh the kash with the shoulder. So shoulder we know is mutter. What about mouth? I mean, if that's the Gemara's example of carrying on Shabbos in a weird way, you could do things with your mouth, with your teeth. That's for sure Shinoi and Klachar Yad and Moksa. What about your head? So that was who said the head was allowed? Who remembers? Who said the head? Ramban. Ramban's example when it was on the animal, right? was to take it off with your head, and that was gepaskined in the Biur Halacha, that's the Shulchan Aruch. Come get, but that's talking about Hitzah. I'm talking about Hitzah. Now what? Yeah, it's true. I'm saying that's why I said by mouth. It's true, but what about foot? What about foot? So that's the Mishabura. The Mishabura and Sivkot and Yud-Gimel, the Mishabura and Sivkot and Lamed. Foot is the Kalachar Yad. What about an elbow? This one's hard. Does anybody know Hebrew over here? What? Atzile means elbow, right? I think Rashi says elbogan or something. I remember the Targum in the back. Everybody always liked learning the Targum in the back. He said some English word, Yiddish words, some interesting words. God, I think he was a maskil or something. But anyways, here, Shin Ches, Safek maskil. Hey, Chav Gimel Ches. Hey. You guys are probably always wondering, am I going to run out of stuff, no? Don't worry. There's always stuff, don't worry. Chav Gimel, hey, Chav Gimel. Where's this? Hey, what did I write here? Chav Gimel Ches. No, there's no Chav Gimel Ches. Chav Beis Ches. What are you talking about? Ma nechshav tiltul kalachar yad. What's nechshav, Moshe? What's nechshav tiltul kalachar yad? Tiltul al yedei achoyrei yadav. He means backhanded. Loy barur dechashiv kalachar yad. Now we know already what is the Mishabura's hashkafa on that question, that the Mishabura held your backhand, the back of your hand is considered tiltul min atzad. Okay, that's lo barur. Ramoshe is not barur. He doesn't know if that's 100% true. The reason Ramoshe doesn't know if that's true is the Graz in Reish Ayin Vav Sivkot Yud is first not like the Mishabura, and he says backhanded is kalachar yad is gufay, and you're allowed to move things with the back of your hand. Okay, no one wants to go against the Mishabura, so we're going to consider it tiltum inside, which will be mutal tzar kufa makoymai. Okay, good. Ramoshe is not sure about the backhand. Sorry. That what? Maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe. Then he says, Achein b'marpeko. What's a marpeko? What's a marpeko? Anybody? What? I thought it's elbow also. You're saying it's this part of the elbow? Marpeko. No, it makes a big difference. It's the inside. Was it inside the marpeko? Any Israelis? It's Mershtamal? What? So I looked it up in that little red, which when I came to Eretz Yisrael 20-something years ago, 22 years ago, I didn't know Hebrew so well, right? So I had this English Hebrew dictionary, which I still have till today, I told the guy, Lech Lechal Hara Maria, take me to the Kaisel, right? I didn't know Hebrew so well, right? But this was before there were Breslevers. The guy felt pregnant, who's this character? Right? But so I looked up, he says Marpeko is an elbow. Marpeko is an elbow. I don't know if Moshe had a Hebrew English dictionary, though, so I don't know, I don't know. What's a Marpeko? Marpeko is an elbow, no? So Moshe says a Marpeko is kalachar yad. Marpeko. What? What? I don't know. There could be a difference, right? I don't know. Sorry? No, I'll tell you the problem. The problem is like this. No, I don't trust anyone but God. But one second. The problem is like this. The problem is that, first of all, the Shmir Shabbos brings the Goyim Rishleim Zalman from Aleph Yud in the Mincha Shleima, and he says, like the grass, that with the back of your hand is kalachar yad. I'm just saying, if the back of your hand is kalachar yad, for sure your elbow is kalachar yad. That's no shayla, right? And then he brings, and the Mishabura said, Bein atzile yadav. Now I think atzile yadav, what is it? No, am I wrong? I think atzile yadav is the elbows. Bein the elbows, like that. Bein atzile yadav, right? Yeah, it could mean like this also. I'm not sure, right? Maybe it means like this. But it doesn't mean that. Bein atzile yadav. He just got all insulted. Okay. No, I think it means like this. Bein atzile yadav. I think it means like that. What? Takav atzile yadav. Takav atzilov. I don't know how you can bein atzile yadav your armpits. I can't do it. You have to be very athletic for that, or double jointed, or neither. What? Bein atzile yad. That's not bein atzile yadav. That's under atzil yad. I don't know. Like that. It's Rashi in this week's parsha. Okay, I didn't do it yet, but let's see. I don't know how to get there. What? Where is it? Kineged liboy lamata me atzilov. So it's like a mata from the elbows, like. Oh, look, and it says elbows. You wrote elbows in. No, so now it's the first. Okay. I don't know. No, I'm saying it sounds like from the Mishnah Berurah that your elbow would yes be. The Mishnah, listen, Ramesha seems to say Marpeko is Klachayad. And I imagine that Bein Atzila Yadav is the Mishnah Berurah is a tzadnat. That's a big chiddush in the Mishnah Berurah. That's not called Tilta Begufa. I mean, this sounds very big chiddush, no? It's a huge chiddush to say that this is not Klachayad. It's a tremendous chiddush. Tremendous chiddush. Later. Okay, let's say two people together want to carry something muksa. It doesn't mean in a case of where you need two people to carry, but it means like where you don't need two people to carry. So is that called a shinoi? So they bring the Taisus Shabbos, and he says that would be called tiltul min atzad. I asked Rabbi Yashiv, you can't be saimach on this. You can't be saimach. That's what I heard from Rabbi Yashiv. Last night, I saw in the Shvus Yitzchak that he asked Rabbi Yashiv said you could be saimach on it. So now it's a stira. I heard not like that. He heard yes like that. So I don't know. I guess you shouldn't listen to me. I don't know. But Al Kapanim, it does sound like a tremendous chiddush that two people can hold muktzah together. And it's Shnaim Shas. It's a tremendous chiddush. First of all, Shnaim Shas might not be it's only a P'tor Korban. It still might be an Isser. Excuse me? It's anyways told about mixes, right? I don't know. You're Ramish carrying muktzah. I don't know. Something sounds to me very off. I don't know. You're holding one side, I'm holding the other side. Sounds to me like a very good chiddush. You know, at that time when I asked Rabbi Yashiv, that's why I remember the story. At that time when I asked Rabbi Yashiv, I remember that day they were talking about a story that happened. Rabbi Yashiv had a mechutin. There's no shaykhs, but I can say it anyways. Or no? What do you think? Purim. No, but I'm going to talk about Purim. So then if it's only about Purim, then what? Okay. So Rabbi Yashiv had a mechutin. His name was Remer. His name was. His son-in-law was Binyamin Remer. His father's name was. What was his father's name? Like I forgot his name. He was a Mechut Rav Yashiv's Mechutin. This was the story they were talking about that day. His son-in-law was there, and he was telling over the story to the people that were outside waiting online to speak to Rav Yashiv. That's why I remember the story. That's why it's hard for me to believe, because if I remember, like the Gemara talks about in certain places that Rav Yochanan was standing with 1 foot here and 1 foot there when he said the shtickle. It showed that it had a roshim on him. He made a roshim. So, anyways, so that day, Rabbi Binyamin Remer was talking about his father, whose name slips my mind, maybe Moshe Remer. The Mechutin of Rav Yashiv. And so he once came to Rav Yashiv with a shot like this. So he was in Auschwitz. And he was at the point he had typhus, and he felt for sure he was going to die. He felt like his body was too weak, and he needed something to eat. He came outside, and all he saw was snow. That's all he saw. So he saw somebody walking, and the person was holding mamish a hain rav. He was holding the treasure chest. He's holding 4 pieces of bread, right? So he couldn't be soivel. It was mamish. It was the end of his life, and he tripped the person. He asked him for a piece of bread, and the person said no. And he tripped the person, and he made him fall, and he took one of the pieces of bread. So then he went to Rav Yashiv years later, and he said he's alive. He's alive because of that. Right? He's alive because of that story. So he asked Rav Yashiv, did he do the right thing, and does he have to do tshuva? So he asked 3 questions. One question he asked Rav Yashiv was, did he do the right thing? One question is, does he have to do a shava? And the third question is, if he has to do a shava, does he have to do a shava, kafi what a piece of bread was worth in Auschwitz, or how much a piece of bread is worth be'etzim? That was the shava. So he said like this. He said that Rav Yashiv told him that for pekuach nefesh, so a person is allowed to steal to save his life. That's a Gemara. Baba Kama Daf Samach talks about David HaMelech burning down the field and whatever. You're allowed to steal in order to save your life if you're going to die. However, the halacha is that you're only allowed to steal if you have the das, you're going to pay back. So you would have to pay back. So he said, but you do have to pay back. How could he pay back? He told him it's not shaykh to pay back. So he told him he should do like Chazal say, when a person has to pay back and he doesn't have any ability to do hashava. Where is it? In Daf Lamed Zayin over there in Bamitzir. So what does he do? He does hashava l'rabim. Buy a kaisel chair, buy a chair for the kaisel, and hope that someday this person will be nana, that he sat there or something like that, so that you do, okay. So that's what he told him to do, go do something for the rabbin. So he said, the third shiler of Yashiv said he needs a raya. How do you, it shots it up. He shots it up, could be the value of a piece of bread in Auschwitz, which is, it's mamish, it's a hoin rav, right? That's how much would you pay for an operation that they should, save you, for your brain, a heart operation? I don't know, so whatever that is, that's how much a piece of bread is worth. Or no, So Rabbi Yasha said he needs to be Misyashiv, he needs a raya. So he told him, go ask Chaim. Who's Chaim? Kanievsky, right? So Chaim Kanievsky, Chaim Kanievsky said a raya. He said a raya? What was the raya? I don't know if I'm not Chaim, so I don't remember off and on. What was the raya? The raya was, what was the raya? He told him, I don't remember the raya. 1 second. He told him, there's a raya that we look at the price there. No. I don't remember the raya. Huh? What was the raya? What was the raya? No. I don't remember. Okay, so I have to a Bal Chayv. Anybody know the raya? Huh? Let's do the mikveh first. What? No, it wasn't there. It was Asa, it wasn't there. Right from the Gemara. What? No. No. What? Wasn't for David Melech. Wasn't this? Oh, was the raya? That's gonna drive me crazy. What? Was the raya? What? No. That's something else. There's Chaim Moiser. No. What's the raya? I remember him standing right there telling us the story. I said, Chaim, how do I? What was the Hello? Go on. Nobody knows? What? What? What's the raya? Wait, Nachman, he said he had a raya that's something that's worth, we go kafi, the value there. I give you the value of now. I don't know the raya. Okay. What? Who? I don't know the raya. All right. All right. Let's talk about Purim. No? Tam v'nishlam? You finished Muksa? Let's talk about Purim. No? What? Who? What about pockets? What's a shaila?
If you're walking on Shabbos, you find muksa in your pocket.
Let's see. If you're walking on Shabbos, you find muksa in your pocket. In case where your pants become muksa, they not become muksa. No, they never become, right. They won't become muksa. It's shachach even, or whatever it is. Not a basis or whatever, but it's never a basis because it's, oh, you mean we had our shtickle with the pants, but let's say it's shachach. Okay, so it's shachach. So now the halacha is that it's tiltul min atzad. It's not called gufa, it's called tiltul min atzad. Tiltul min atzad. It's kedarkai. It's a normal thing to be carrying money in your pocket, right? So tiltul min atzad we saw is when things are normal, right? So but that we saw yesterday, l'chayah raya, not like Rosh Shlomo Zalman. We saw from broom and sweeping. It's makom to be saimech. That'll be called tiltul min atzad. Let's sayrech getting home, right? And yesh lahakol. Yesh lahakol. Yesh lahakol. What? Come again? No, that's first of all why it's not a basis. But can I walk home with it? So it's tiltul min atzad. I'm allowed to walk home with it, right? And we saw even if you're going to lose the muksa, Shartzian said, even though you're doing it, you don't want to lose the muksa. I'm not doing it for the muksa. I have to walk. So I'm walking. So it's tiltul min atzad. It's tzarech what? Me walking from point A to point B. So therefore it's tiltul min atzad. Tzarech davar mutter. So therefore it's mutter. What? Oh, so that's called it's yafsha b'nir. That the Shartzian said, even though, sorry, we're makeable, but magam acid. So therefore it's mutter. Therefore it's mutter. Yeah. What else? Any other questions? What? The pocket will be muksa if it's a basis. If it's not a basis, then once you get the money out, you can put your hands in the pocket. If the pocket was a muksa, which because it wasn't the basis, it was not a shachach, it was the kavana or whatever the case was, right? It's usually going to be shachak, but if it's not a shachak, so then the rest of Shabbos, you won't be able to put your hands inside your pocket, right? You won't be able to put your hand in your pocket. What? Sorry? If it's not a hefsed, then it's talking the best thing. You take the bag apart, as long as it's not a buses, and shake it out. Shake it out with the bag, right? That's tiltul min atzad, near, right? To get rid of it. You're allowed to do that. Okay, each person has to know what's fancy people, half a shekel. Some people, that's the maskora. No, you know, that's okay. You're not in England anymore, right? What would be with using a closed umbrella to walk with his donkey? What was that? His donkey? With his what? Not a donkey? What? With his new baby? What does he want, Singer? What does Singer want from us? I don't know. All right. Kitzer, which is derech. Yeah, okay. So are you allowed to use an umbrella as a shtekin, as a walk, as a klishim lachtal yeser? Let's sorry, gufay, he needs to use it. Okay. It's like Chazal say, you should try to avoid it. The Mishabura says, if you can get something else, why should you use an umbrella to klishim lachtal yeser? You should probably try to use something else if you're able to use something else. Right? What was the raya? I can't go on. What was the raya? What? He told the raya, he said, he was talking right to me. He said the raya, Rechaim said on the spot, the raya, that because money, he brought a raya that money would go kafi, how much it was in that place. All right, let's just learn. I don't know. What? He said that you'd have to pay that amount. You have to pay. Which side? Which again? No. It was not. It was like more of a drush raya. It wasn't like a hard raya. Tagar Lud was like a hard Gemara. Let's see a Dafna Aleph. He spent like 3 days on it once. What? Okay, that's fair. You have to know how much. But okay. All right, let's talk about Purim. Okay, but everybody's clear. We finished Muksa. Monday we have to talk about Bittul Kli Menachana. We go weiter. What? We go out. We didn't finish yet. Don't worry. But the Bittul Kli Menachana first. Don't worry. But the actual dinim and laws of Muksa, right? 87 shiurim later. 87 shiurim later. Okay, let's talk about Purim. No, it's a 3-day yontif this year. Got to really talk. Let's talk about Purim. Okay. I didn't know what to talk about here because Purim, I didn't know what to talk about. It's a big Megillah. The Megillah is the ganze 10 parakim, and there's so much. There's not a word in the Megillah. There's not 3 words in the Megillah that if I tell you 3 words that you won't know it's from Megillah Esther. Right? All I have to do is say any 3 words in the Megillah and you'll know it's from Megillah Esther. You can't do that in any other Megillah. It's not just because you guys don't know Tanakh, right? There's something unbelievable that Esther Agdavin and she asked that there should be chayin in Megillah Esther, kavuni l'dairis. So what am I going to do? There's so much. Every single sentence of the Megillah, you could say something. Every word of the Megillah, you could say something, a vart, a this, a that. So very hard. I was looking in the afternoon, what should I talk about? And it was very difficult. So I came up with this pasuk that intrigues me. So it says in the pasuk, "V'toimer Esther, ish tsar v'yev haman hara hazeh." Right? Ish tsar v'yev haman hara hazeh. And as she did it, Amar B'Lazer, the Gemara Megillah Daf Tezayin, Amar B'Lazer, Melamed shayamach ve'klape Achashverosh. She was saying, ish tsar v'yev. She was pointing right at Achashverosh, right? Ba Malach, there he is again, the whole Megillah, if you know what's going on underneath, right? Ba Malach, Soter is Yadav, no, Esther, you're going to mess everything up. And he pushes the hand, and he points at Haman HaRasha. Adkan is the Gemara. This is such a pella. This is the moment that we've all been waiting for. This is after the culmination of 3 days of Tanaisim. This is after 12 years and her suffering for the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever it was, right? And this is it. We're about to finally get rid of this Haman, or the Nish, but the fasting, the Suda, the Chana, the Mishta, the davening, the whole Klal Yisrael. She's standing in the middle of the palace. And what does she do? She's about to botch up the whole thing. She says, Ish, Sarva, Yev, and she points at Achashverosh. What's she thinking? The pleadless governor. What's the shot of here? She's going to mess up everything. What could she have been thinking? It's such a pella. It's a big pella. This whole thing is such a pella. What was she thinking? A pella. And the Baruch Hashem, the Malach came and pushed their hand and does. So it's true. You see here, like, the Midas HaEmes of the Gedolim of Tzadikim, they say a story with the Maral Diskin. The Maral Diskin, they called him the Sraf, like a Malach. He was a Malach, the Malach of Bris. He's a Malach. His goyness was undershadowed almost by his incredible tzidkis, and his tzidkis was undershadowed. He was a goyin and a tzaddik, and he was everything. But the maskilim didn't like him because he didn't like them. Right? And he was loichem against the maskilim. So the maskilim made a big war against the Maral Diskin. And one time, that they claimed, they accused him of stealing and embezzling the funds and whatever. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court, to the Goyish over there and wherever they were. And they put the Maral Diskin in jail, and he was awaiting a trial. And the Jews obviously were trying to Maral Diskin, his character, to even think such a thing. He's a malach. They called him the malach, right? And to think such a thing that the Maral Diskin stole. But so the Jewish community collected money for the best lawyer. They brought him, obviously a Jew, right? So they got him a Jewish lawyer, and he was a maskil himself. So he came in to talk to the Maral Diskin about his case and whatever. And the Maral Diskin wouldn't look at him the whole time. The entire time he was sitting there with the Maral Diskin. So after he talked to the Maral Diskin for about an hour and a half, discussing, to prove rayas that he wasn't at the time or whatever, and it's not shaykh and whatever it was. So finally he said to Maral Diskin, he just has one question, but it's not the case. No, what's the question? How come you don't look at me? So he told him, because you're Russia. And it says, it's asil l'staka b'fnei Russia. He said, okay, that's all I wanted to know. He came to the court and he said, look, before we, down the trial, the lawyers have to give like, a little statement. He said, I just want to tell you who we're talking about here. This is a person he knows his life is totally in me, right? And he told, and you know that I'm a big lawyer, and you know that I'm really his only chance over here, and that's why they hired me. And I talked about his case for an hour and a half, and he didn't look at me for one time, not one time. He didn't look at me. And then I asked him, why didn't you look at me? And he told me, because I'm a Russia, right? This person, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. His midas ha'emes, his sitkis, only allows him to do what's right. If the Torah says that he's not allowed to look at a Russia, he doesn't look at a Russia, even if that's bad for him. He didn't do it. They say that a tremendous Russia, and that was one of the reasons that he got off. That he didn't look at me for 1.5 hours. Okay? So that's maybe Pshat and Esther. But her midas ha'emes, I don't care. I'm not afraid of anyone except for God. Okay? Ish tsar v'yev, that's the emes. You're the Russia. It's all in your hand. You're the one who gave the decree. You're the final solution, right? It's still she's standing by this is the culmination. She's about to batch everything up. She's about to match everything up over here. Like, right? Why couldn't she just, if Pikuch Nefesh is involved? No, there's Pikuch Nefesh involved. She should have said, Ish Sar V'Yev and Haman Russia. Why is she pointing to Achashverosh? Pelagadol. The Goyin Frek the Kasha. There's only Goyin Frek the Kasha. So the Goyin says Pshat is like this. The Goyin is Derech HaPshat, the Goyin, right? So the Goyin says it's based on the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah and Daf Daled. It's really based on a pasuk in Nehemiah, but there's no chance of that. So it's based on the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Daf Daled. The Gemara says Nehemiah. I tell you a little bit of what's going on here. There was Nehemiah and there was Ezra. Right? Ezra was the one that was the Gadol Ador. Ezra was the Gadol Ador. He was the Tzaddik Ador. He was the one that was Machzer Torah. The Klal Yisrael, he was Ezra Soifer. He's the one that was Machzer Torah. And Kivyachol, for lack of a better name, the one who was the big askin of the door was Nehemiah. If you see throughout the Psukim, you see Nehemiah was the one that whenever there were issues and whatever and problems, they went to Nehemiah. Nehemiah was that askin. What was Nehemiah's Steller? Nehemiah's Steller, this is years before the Ganze Purim story, but Al-Kapanim, Nehemiah's Steller he was called Tarshasa. Tarshasa meant that he was the one that was the Tarsh, the Lashon there, Shasa. He was the Sar of the Shasa. He was the one, the Sar Mashkin. His job was to taste the cup of the wine that he brought to the king, or the Melech of Bavel, because, a lot of people wanted to kill him, the Melech of Bavel. So that was his job. His job was to taste the cup of wine. That's what the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah Daf Daled. Okay. So he drank the wine. One day he comes into the Melech, I think it's the beginning of Parak Beis over there, and he comes into the Melech, and the Melech says, Nehemiah, you look like you look sad. Why look sad? So finally, Nehemiah says these words. He says, how could I not be sad? How could I be sad? My house is in shambles in Yerushalayim, and what's with Kivrei Avoisai? So the Gemara says these words. The Gemara brings the pasuk. Vespalel elokei hashamayim. Now he's in the middle of having a conversation with the king, and in the middle of that conversation, the pasuk interjects and says Vespalel elokei hashamayim. And the Gemara explains. He goes on to say, "Va'amar imal melech toiv." If it's good for the Melech, so then Im Yitav Avdich Lefanecha Shalcheni El Yehuda, send me back. And that started up the whole binyan of the second base of Mikdash. Taka then got messed up by all the bad guys and whatever. That was the story that's the prelude to really the whole story of the Achashverosh, the whole story of Esther and the ganze Megillah, right? But you see from over here, Zok the Gemara, and this is how the Goyin explains, is that Nehemiah is sitting and talking to the king. But in the middle of talking to the king, he stopped talking to the king and he's talking straight to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He started davening. But as he's davening, he's directing his words toward the king. But what's he really doing? He's davening. So when Nehemiah was there and he saw there's a Shasa Kosher, so he started davening, Rebbeinu Shalom, please bring me back to Yerushalayim. I want to build the walls. I want to build the base of Mikdash. And he started davening. His talk, his sprach was to the king, but he wasn't there. He wasn't there. He was talking to God. He had kol kulait vekis. So the Goyin, that's Pshat in Esther. That's Pshat in Esther. Pasha Pshat. So the Goyin, Esther, when she came in there, right, and she started saying, Kinim Karnu, Ani, Va'ami, right, Ilu, but it's Laharoig, Lahashmid, La'abe, Be'ilu La'avodim, and she's davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please HaKadosh Baruch Hu, she's davening straight to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So then, Ish, Sar V'yev, when you're davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you're telling him about tzaras and you're telling him about problem, so to him you say the emes, right? So who's the one that's responsible for all the tzaras? Haman. Haman's told you Achashverosh about it, right? All right. Afterward, Achashverosh was able to whatever extent, mevatel the gzeira. So Mela, she was saying, why are you letting Achashverosh do this to the Yidden? But who was she talking to? She was talking to God. She was not there. She was not there. So that's the answer to the kasha. The kasha is not kasha b'chlal. What's the kasha? The kasha is how could she point to Achashverosh? The answer is, Avad, it's only a kasha when you live in this world. When you live over there, when you live in Dveikis, you live in the world of Ruchani. You live in the world of Ruchni, in the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there's no kasha. There's no kasha. She's davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and she said, he's the one who's causing all the problems. Okay, but the Malach, and the Malach saved the day. Sasar al Yadav, right? But that's the Hainu Esther's normal. That's the pshat. When you're seeing over here, it's a big Yisrael, Rabbi Isai. Esther is normal, right? Esther's normal. Think about what this is, Rabbi Isai. She's in the palace. She's the queen of the whole world. Right? She's she's at a state's event. Imagine she's wearing the clothing for a state's event and this, and she has the highest ranking official and her husband, the king. And this is an Indian of Pikuach Nefesh. And this is an Indian, not just of her Pikuach Nefesh, but the whole entire nation is dependent on her, but she's not there. But she's not there. Imagine how a person would have, the heart would be palpitations, they say, right? He'd be, I'm here, and he's at a king's dinner, and he has to act a certain way, and I have to save the Klal Yisrael and everything, and the Achrayus and the responsibility and this and that. She's not there. She's not there. She was davening. She wasn't there. She was in full kulay dveikis to such an extent she accidentally pointed to the wrong guy, to the right guy, right? Because she was in dveikis. It's a hafadikazach. Hafadikazach. It's a bit of a musar. She's there by the king, and all she could do is think about Hashem Yisbarach. Us, a lot of times we come to daven, right? We're standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and all we can think about is everything else that's going on. It's a bit of a musar, right? She was in kol kulay dveikis. She's in a matzah which is it's pelagic. It's the most. It's the matzah you have to be in the most, and she's not there. She's fully, and she's the right one. She got it right. That's the whole underlying story of the Megillah, is to come to that realization of what's really going on over here. It's a puppet show. It's coming to the realization that there's nothing going on here, and that everything that's going on is dveikis to Hashem Yisbarach. And that's Rav Shach Zechron Levracha said Maisa that Rav Shach one time, they were talking to him about some very big Indian politics and political Indian and whatever, and this and that. It's about to be like Hudim in this country in the next month, right? And and they're talking to Rav Shach, and Rav Shach has to make decisions and this, that. And Rav Shach started to like his eyes started to close, and he started to like look like he was concentrating and this, right? And so it was taking a few minutes. So finally he said to Rosh Yeshiva, what's the Rosh Yeshiva thinking? What's he thinking? And he started telling them Pshat in the Rambam. He started telling, so the Rambam must be like this. He started telling the whole Pshat in the Rambam, right? Because he's there. He's in the real zone. He's not in the funny zone. He's there. There's so much dveikis when a person lives in that world, and he that's the emes. That's the emes. So Chatzkel Abramsky, he said Pshat in the end of the Megillah. He said, I think this idea at the end of the Megillah, it says Haloi. All these things about the stories of Mordechai and Gdulas Mordechai and everything else that went on Aleim, Ksuvim in the Divrei Hayomim and Parasim Madai. They're written in the Divrei Hayomim, the Chronicles and whatever. So the Chatzkel Abramsky said Pshat is like this. You don't think there was a lot of stories that went on over here. A lot of stuff that went on over here. You know what the newspapers were saying, and Haman did this, and Achashverosh did that, and Esther, and the whole story, and whatever. You can imagine, front page of the newspaper, a picture of a green woman, and right? And the newspapers and this and that. He said there's a lot. Esther is called Kulai, what's real, what's Ruach HaKodesh. Esther's the real story. The rest of it is just storybooks. Esther's the real story. Klal Yisrael did Aveira. Klal Yisrael did Tshuva. Klal Yisrael did Tshuva. Kadosh Baruch Hu answers their tefillah. When Kadosh Baruch Hu answers their tefillah, the Rishayim have Apollo. That's the real story. Everything that you're hearing here, that's Megillas Esther. That's the Megillah of the Hester. That's the Ruach HaKodesh. That's what's real. That's what's real. You know, they say a story that there was, it's a real story. I think that there was I mean, everything is a real story, but I'm saying, but I think the story from the Chuvas farm, right? There was a minig in the Chevra Kadisha that they used to, after the Levaya, they would drink a l'chaim. Right? I heard of this when I was younger. I heard of this, but I saw it years later. I saw it in one of the Chuvas farm writes about it. There was a minig they used to drink a l'chaim after Levaya. So there was a certain town that wrote a shaila. Maybe it was to Rav Yitzchak Elchanan, but I don't think a chrayas on that. But they wrote the shaila to one of the gedolim. What kind of weird minig is this? Should we mevatel the Chevra Kadisha people that are drinking on Jewish blood? If this is l'chaim right after the Levaya, what is this? What is this? So I don't remember who it was, but he writes back to them. No, it's a real minig. It's a real minig, and he says, "What's the pshat?" So he said like this. He said, "Look, because when the guy dies, so everybody says." He died because of this machla, he died because of that, because of the stress, because of this. And they say he died because of this, he died because of that. So we're the ones that say the Chevra Kadisha, the ones that say the emes. She'akol niyeh bidvaroi. That's why he died. Okay? So Mamela, that's what they're doing. That's the pshat in the minig. So they asked whoever it was, they asked him, okay, but for stop drinking whiskey. For them, we can drink a bissel apple drink, why do you have to come on? Why do you have to have whiskey for that? So he said, no, so the poor mention in the Vel v'zuk the emes, there's only a few people in the world that say the emes, so they shouldn't have a shot of whiskey. Those are the only people that are saying the emes in the Vel. So those people, they take deserve it. They take deserve it. And that's really what's going on over here. That's what's going on. We come to this Madregan Purim where it's the I'm already forgetting. Mordechai, the Baruch Mordechai, Haman. No, again. No, but we come to the Madregan Purim where it's the Baruch Haman and the Mordechai. What's the Mordechai? The rest of the year, so a person he needs the help of tzaddikim for his tefillahs and this. You're coming to a 4-day festival of tefillah. Right, the 4 biggest days of tefillah in the ganze year. No shaila. The Tainus Esther, the Mishabura says the Yom HaMiyuchad for tefillah, and then Yidalid is Kol HaPoishtin Yad Noistenlei. That's the day that we give out the tzedakah. So Mida Keneged Mida, everyone in Kallus Yisrael. So Mida Keneged Mida, and then there's the Kedushas HaYoyim in Yerushalayim. Kedushas HaYoyim is on Tetzvav, so that's where Kadosh Baruch Hu answers. And the Simcha of Tez and Taka. So he's saying, what if you're not in Yerushalayim? But all the tefillahs go derech Yerushalayim. They go derech Yerushalayim. So a person can daftarayin shikin at tefillah and Yerushalayim. 4 fabulous days of tefillah where we say we don't even need tzaddikim. We don't even need nachalila. We need tzaddikim, but we don't need the tzaddikim for our tefillahs, right? Even the Baruch Haman, even the Haman's tefillahs could be answered. Even the Haman's tefillah and the Aron Mordechai. We don't even need the Mordechais to daven for us because we have 4 days of where we're able to do it for ourselves. That's what's going on over here. That's what's going on. That comes when a person lives in the real world. You all know what's going on in the world today, right? And every single person knows that the Rebbeinu Shalom feared the puppet show with their feared. And the Megillas Esther is Megillah that Hester, that everything that really looks like it's going on, but you don't have to live like that. You could live in the world of real. You could live in the world of tefillah. You can live in the world of tefillah. What's happening at the end of the Megillah? What's the end of the Megillah? Is Haman is hanging on a tree. It's the end of the puppet show. If you weren't sure what was really going on the whole entire time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Halachos of Bishul, is pulling the strings, and finally he says, you see? And he puts him up there on a string, and now you know it was all just a show. And the only one that lives in the real world, that's Esther HaMalka. She's the only one that's right. The rest of us are making a mistake. What was the kasha? The kasha is, how's it shaykh? She's pointing at him because she's right. Because she's living in the world of Dveikis, in the world of Tefillah. No, Ba Malach, he has to help out people that time. But that's a big hashkafa in these few days. In these days, you have to make the most of it. You have to make the most of the tefillahs, not to squander the opportunity. Maisa, this year, it sounds like Purim will be, a little bit more low key, a little bit, to the little extent, mishpacha, like it says in Chazal, and then that low key That low-key, maybe it won't be with that, extremity and that type of, which a lot of times anyways, after Shechner is loy l'ratz and chachamim. Anyways, it's certainly the derech how they do it is a lot of times loy l'ratz and chachamim. That means a person could take advantage of this Purim and have a emistika simcha, a different type. You could get drunk. You should get drunk. You're supposed to finish the psume, right? But not in that goyish way, and to have it in more of a yom of dveikis. These are days of dveikis. These are days of coming to the emistika hakara of what's really going on out there. What's really going on out there? Take advantage of the tefillas. You have days of time to daven. You can have long davenings. Nobody has to run to Seder these days. Vali should learn and Kimmel v'Kibbutz, but there's no running to Seder, in these days. So just daven for everything, daven for Rochnius, daven for, the Matziv, and have real dveikis, none of this mishigas of what's going on in the world and what this one is doing and how that caused and this and that, and start to realize that the only thing that is reality is Torah, is mitzvahs, is ma'asim tovim, is tshuva. That's the real story. That's the real story. And your tefillahs have a tremendous koyach in these days. Tremendous koyachas, right? Come to Emes Hakara. No, the Emes is that whoever remembers, this is last year, this time was Layehudim. When we came back afterward, right? What Rabbi Yitzchak told me, I remember Rabbi Yitzchak said he went into the Shiva last year and he came out and the world was a different world. Right? He went into the Shiva started tonight, right? The Shiva was on Tainus Esther. He said he went to the Shiva. When he came out of sitting Shiva, different world. A different world, right? I remember sitting at the Shiva and I remember saying, I feel comfortable. Everybody was sitting there together and everyone was talking about it. And I remember I told I'm nervous, right? Nervous. By the next day, everybody was nervous, right? And Taka, he said he came out of Shiva and it was a whole different world. There's a whole different world, right? So imagine now, it's like a year later, and this is exactly what we're holding Avada, the Eibishter can Samach and Ganze V'Nahapachu. Everyone's talking about the airports, everyone's talking about the Ganze V'Nahapachu in 1 second. It could all V'Nahapachu, it could all end, it could all start, it could all everything in 1 second. There's a Ganze V'Nahapachu. But Akupanim, it's you have to introspect and you have to go back. Al Nisim, you have to thank the Halachos of Bishul, a year that the Kallus was able to steig in a way, because we lived in the plane of what's real. We lived in the plane of the reality. The reality is Torah. That's what's real. Everything else going on is just a timtza to either confuse us, to be an assign for us, or to give us more schar, or to whatever. But the oilam steigt in a way, in that zone. That's a tremendous chus, because when you steig, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you siyata d'shmaya. You have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for that we were able to stay together the whole year. There are a lot of koilim that did not. I don't have to tell you how many koilim that weren't zeicha to stay together, and how many koilim that weren't zeicha to some even closed and whatever, to steig, because when you live on the plane of ruchnias and that there's nothing else but Torah and nothing else but mitzvahs and your dveikis to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then that's the real world. That's the real world. So you have to thank the Halachos of Bishul. Also think that at this point now you have to really start making some introspection about big decisions about going home. If you can't come back, so then how could you go home, right? You can't, I'm making Pesach here is difficult. Yeah, it's true. But there's also, it's also, you'll be able to be oil regel, and then hopefully Mashiach will come, and it'll be such a shut if you're stuck in America, and even Mashiach might not be able to get the flight. So I don't know. It's difficult. No one says it's not mysterious nefesh. For some people, there's no shaila, and he can't possibly stay. And for some people, there is a shaila. If there's a shaila, so you have to look into it. They're saying all different shmuas. I don't know. They're saying different Rosh Hashivas that talk to people that know these things are saying that, they're concerned with one thing, Rabbi Isai. They're concerned with the beach, okay? They want to have the beach in July and August. We'll do anything to get it there. So they're not concerned that the Yeshiva Bachrim should come back and learn in Steig in Eir. So they're going to do everything in their power to close the world and close I know, now they have bigger problems than the beach. I know, okay, right? But, they're not concerned that Yeshiva Bachrim should get back, and they'll be happy to close the world and close the skies and close everything. And the whole world has the exact same hashkafa. They just want the summer. Let's just get to the summer. Let's get to the summer, So you have to know that before you go, that it's a big risk. It's a big risk. I don't know if I should talk about this or not, but I don't know. So at least daven on these days, and then Halavai will have siyata d'shmaya. My door to anybody who wants is open, but nobody has to come. And this year is more difficult than any other time. Kallus kabalti, whoever wants to come, answer your prayer, right? Whoever can't come, even better. or whatever. You drink one for me, okay? Drink one for me, and halavai that the Eibishter we'll see our tremendous ratzin of Kimu v'Kiblu, and he'll answer all our tefillas, and it'll be a schus for the Koilel and for the Gans Klal Yisrael.
I would want to be a slave in Yisrael Seder.
That's true.
Upstairs?
Yeah. Upstairs. Upstairs.
I go to look. I said, I even smile. I'll be also in the man in the bed.